now that email to me@company.com really ends up at Gmail, and he can reply with a from set as me@company.com, how does one create and interject an initial one-time send, your message is important and will respond soon, auto reply? Next question is from Peter, and I'm going to spend just a few minutes answering his question this morning as the last piece of our show here. And I've got some screenshots to share with you what we're talking about. So first of all, his question is, wondering, now that email to me@company.com really ends up at Gmail, and he can reply with a from set as me@company.com, how does one create and interject an initial one-time send, your message is important and will respond soon, auto reply? Things that hate ya go, Okay, so let me dissect his question a little bit for you. So he's saying he has a Gmail account, and inside his Gmail account, it is now set up to use his domain name, peter@whateverdomainname.com. So that part is set up. He receives the email and he can send from the email. So his next question is, how can I create an autoresponder that basically when someone sends an email to me, it sends them back, hey, thanks for writing. Your information is important. We'll get back to you soon. I have a solution for this. I don't know if it's going to accomplish absolutely everything you want it to, but let me share with you what I can, and maybe something will help you out. Okay? So there's a couple things I want to tell you about as we go down this particular rabbit trail. And the first thing is this side note. Inside the Gmail settings, there is something called a vacation responder. This isn't exactly an answer to Peter's question, but I wanted to point it out before we go any deeper. So you can, in the Gmail settings, the settings is located in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little gear icon. Click that, scroll down, you'll find settings in there. And in the first panel, there's a lot of panels in that settings. The first panel is the general settings. Scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you'll find this area right here, vacation responder. So this is exactly what it sounds like. You're going out of town for a certain amount of time, and you want to send an email to everybody that writes you that says, hey, I'm out of town. I'll be out of town for a week. If it's important, please call or text me or follow up with my office or whatever you want it to say. I'm sure you've seen these kind of emails before. Here's how you do it in Gmail. So you can turn it on. You can set the day you want it to begin and the day you want it to end and the subject and the message that you want it to say. So that's already pre-set up inside the Gmail settings. Vacation responder. Not what Peter's asking about specifically, but I wanted to point it out that you can create this as an autoresponder to everybody who emails you between one date and another date. Okay? So if that could help you, that's where to go to find that. But that's not what he's asking about. So we'll talk about that next. So the next thing I want to tell you about, Peter, is Gmail's canned responses. This is something that I've been using in Gmail for years, and I love it. And they just changed the name of it. For the last decade, it's been called canned responses, and they just changed the name of it to templates. So you know, your mileage may vary, but if you look inside the settings, you're going to find templates now, formerly canned responses. Gmail has this cool place where they would experiment with different features, and canned responses was one of those features. And I've been playing with it for a decade, and it's amazing. And here's one of the ways you can use it. So here's how to do it. First of all, you're going to need to enable the templates. It's not in there by default. You have to turn it on. So I'll show you where that is. Then you have to create your template. I'll show you where that is. And then finally, you have to create your filter. And I'm going to show you where that is. So let's look at all those steps right now. So the first thing is your canned responses or templates. Let me give this to you full screen. All right, remember I told you about that settings panel underneath that gear in the upper right-hand corner? I told you already that the first tab is general. Well, check it out. This one over here, advanced. You're looking for the one called advanced. And I don't think you can see my cursor, but anyway, it's highlighted in blue on the screen. So go into settings and then look for the advanced tab. And then, as you can see, the first one here on the list is templates. It says, turn frequent messages into templates to save time. Templates can be created and inserted through the More Options menu in the Compose toolbar. You can also create automatic replies using templates and filters together. We're going to do that now. So you'll need to enable it. So by default, it's disabled. So you'll need to come into your settings, into this advanced tab, and then enable it. That's the first step. You've got to enable it. Okay? Once you're an enabler, so enable it. Did I have that twice? I'm confused. Canned responses are templates. Oh, good. Very clever of me. Very clever. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is enable your template. Then the next piece is you're going to need to create your template. The easiest way to do this is to create a new message. So hit the new message, hit the compose button, and this is where the templates is hiding. There's these 3 dots at the bottom. So look at the 3 dots, and then you'll see templates as an option there. If you've never used this before, your templates area is going to be empty. If you're like me, you're going to have a couple dozen items in the templates. So the first thing that you need to do is create your template. And the way that you do that is just type right here into this compose window. So it's like you're preparing the email that you're going to send. Actually, you're not going to send it, you're going to save it. So compose, bring up your compose, go ahead and type out your message, whatever it's going to be. In this case, hey, thanks for writing. We're so glad you wrote us. You're very important to us. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Whatever you want your message to say. Here is a special note. Note. This is important. If you leave your signature in this form while you're creating your template and then you save it and you save your signature as part of your template, and then later you come in and you create a new message and you put that template in it, you're going to have your signature twice. So I'm pointing this out to you because I want you to think about how the template is going to be used. So I have some templates, which is just little snippets of information that I drop in emails, stuff I say all the time. Stuff like, hey, check out my free video workshop. I've got that saved as a template so I can just click it and it drops the information and the link and stuff in there. So in that message, I don't have my signature saved as part of it because I'm always dropping it into a message that I'm already writing that my signature is already a part of. Does that make sense? So here's the big point. If you're creating a template that you're going to insert into a message that you're manually writing, remove your signature. Make that the first step. Delete the signature right out of there and then add the information in because you don't want it to double paste your signature. Does that make sense how I'm explaining that? I hope so. Don't save the signature as part of your template. Now, I'm going to take that right back again because what we're about to do is create a template that we want to auto send. So in that case, and for that case only, I would say you go ahead and save your signature. Maybe your name, maybe your email address. You can see I do a lot of crazy stuff with my signature. I'm currently using my signature to ask people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. P.S. You can use your signature to ask people to do stuff or advertise something or share a quote or that's your golden nugget. How are you using your signature? In what way are you using your signature for you and for your clients? So that's something interesting to think about. So if you're creating snippets that you're saving into template for you to use in your messages, don't save your signature with it. However, if you're creating a template to become an auto response like we're doing right now, you may want to save your signature as part of it. So I wanted to throw that out to you to be aware of, to ask yourself while you're doing it, do you want your signature to become part of this saved message or do you not want it to become part of the saved message? It's all about how you're going to be using this canned response, this template. They don't call it that anymore. It's all about how you're going to use this template. Does that make sense? So consider it when you're creating the template, whether or not you want it to save the signature as part of it. I would say usually 80% of the time, no, you don't want it to. But in this particular case, Peter, you do want it to because you want it to be part of that response. Okay, let's review. We've enabled templates. We've then hit our compose button so that we can type up that template, and then you go right down here, the dots, you click on templates, and then one of the only options you're going to have, if this is brand new to you, is the button that says Save Template, and it's going to allow you to create a title for it, and that title usually becomes the subject line, which if you're manually creating a message, you can override in that moment, but it might automatically use it as a auto response. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. And one more thing about what it's going to do with the title of that message, I'll show you in a couple steps from now. So watch this whole thing before you do anything, and then come back to this part, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so that's how to enable it and how to create it. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Please let me know if you have any questions. This stuff gets really complicated really fast, and it can be very difficult to talk about. So please, there are no such thing as stupid questions. Doesn't exist. Ask me any questions you have, okay? So the next piece of this is to create the filter. Now, you can use these filters in Gmail for a lot of different things. The thing that I use them for the most is to add a label. So for example, every time Garrison sends me an email, I have a Gmail filter that automatically puts my label Garrison on his email. And the purpose of that is now I can go back to his label anytime to find email that he sent me. I do that with every one of my clients. When Betty emails me, it labels Betty. When Becker's Catering emails me, labels them Becker's Catering. I do that with everybody. It saves me time in the future so that when people email me, it automatically goes into their folder or label in my Gmail system. That's the way I use this the most. But there's a lot of things you can do with this. Today, we're answering Peter's question about how to set up an autoresponder. So check this out. This is how it works. The first thing you need to do is set the rules. So Peter, in your case, the rule you're going to set is right here in the to field. Let me make this bigger for you. In the to field, that's where you're going to put that new email address, me@company.com, peter@whatever.com. So you're creating a rule that when you get an email to this email address, something's going to happen. So think of it like an if-then statement. If this happens, then this will happen. We're creating a rule. We're programming. This is programming. You have to think of it logically. So this is the first step. Now, as you can imagine, if I'm creating that rule to label Garrison's message, I'm going to put his email address in the from field so that when I get email from Garrison, it labels it Garrison. But that's not what we're doing in today's example. In today's example, we're setting it up so that when you get an email to this address, whatever the specific email address is, then we're going to have it do something. So the first step is to define the rule, set the rule. In this case, to whatever@whatever.com email address. Then, instead of clicking that blue button that says search, you click the create filter. Did I not mention where this was? This is in the search tool at the very top of the Gmail screen. This is where this all begins. It's the same place. You can kind of see it at the top of the screen right here. It says search mail. And it looks like the moon because that's I have the space theme set in my Gmail. What a nerd. So I'm using the space theme on my, the planets. I think it's called planets, the planets theme. So yours may look slightly different, but it's the search bar at the very top of Google. If you click that, this panel drops down, which allows you to either perform a search in your email by default or create a filter. And that's how we're using it today. So you'll click that search bar. It's going to drop down this menu. Then you put in the email address in the to field, and then you click that button, create filter, not the search button highlighted in blue, but the one next to it. Create filter. When you do that, when you click right here, create filter, it's going to ask you what you want to happen. So the first thing that we did is we defined the rule of who we're looking for, in this case, email to a particular email address. Now this is where we define what happens. So you can see up here at the very top, it says to me@company.com. That's the rule. And this is the place where we assign what's going to happen now. You can see there's a checkbox. There's an option right here for send template. So this is why we have to create the template first. Then we can come in here and we can use the send template, check the box next to send template, and then use that drop-down box right next to it to choose the template that you want to send. And then you'll click the blue button that says create filter. And that's all there is to it. Now I've got a couple caveats, a couple things to tell you about this. So the first thing is, this is for new emails only. The filtering options only apply to new messages that come in after the filter is created. So even if you have existing emails where the filter could apply, the canned responses will not be sent out to the recipients of those messages. So once again, when you create the rule, it will only activate, it will only fire off from that point forward. It will not email previous responses. Okay. And here's another thing. This is the thing I was alluding to a few minutes ago. It's going to create a different email address for you. So look what happens. Canned responses originate from an address that is still yours, but a slightly altered email address. For example, if your normal address is example123@gmail, sending out auto emails will change the address to example123 plus canned response @gmail.com. This may need some experimenting, Peter. We may need to experiment with this to see exactly how it's going to happen and how it's going to work, especially if you've already created a different email address as your default. I don't know what it's going to do in that case. So I'm just sharing with you some general information. This is how you use the software. This is how it's supposed to work, but I'm not 100% confident or sure how it will work. I also want to point out at this point, I don't know if it's only going to do this once when someone emails you, or if it will continue to send it to them every single time they email you. Does that make sense? So there's a caution there. In some auto-response sequences, you have the option to say, send it once and once only. So I do not know if Gmail is sophisticated enough with this filter tool to only send that canned response once. I'm just sharing some information that exists, and I don't know all the details. So this might take some experimentation with us, Peter, okay? We can play with it and see what happens. I would be happy to email you a couple times after you create this rule, and we'll see what happens. A lot of the things we do on the internet is, well, let's do it and see what happens. Okay? So that's our question of the week for Peter. So let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that. Let's experiment with that a little bit and see how it works. Like I said, I know some of the answers. I don't know all the answers. So I invite our community to jump into our Facebook group and let us know your experience with these pieces. Any of these pieces, canned responses, filters, or the auto response that are set up. I hope this information is helpful to you. Will you let me know? Will you let me know if it's good, if it's bad, what you like, what you don't, and any follow-up questions you have. The internet's a jungle. Roar!